A very warm welcome to National Gallery Singapore. My name is Sarah and I will be your host for this evening. Thank you for joining us for today's exciting panel discussion, Being an Other, Life Abroad as an Asian Creative, featuring fashion designer Andrew Gan, actor Tan Keng Hua, artist Wong Keen, and moderated by Usha Chandradas, former nominated Member of Parliament and co-founder of Plural Art magazine. We're so honored to have a stellar lineup with us tonight. This discussion is in response to the groundbreaking exhibition, City of Others, Asian Artists in Paris, 1920s to 1940s, which opened at the gallery earlier this month. Be sure to catch it later on if you haven't already, because just for you guys, we'll be opening up the exhibition space till 9 p.m. tonight. Yes, we love the buzz. Thank you so much for your enthusiasm. Now, without further ado, yes, congratulations to all the curators and the gallery for the opening of City of Others. So now, with all this buzz, without further ado, I'd like to invite Phoebe Scott, who is part of the team of dedicated curators of the exhibition, to share more on City of Others. A round of applause as we welcome her up on stage.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. And a special thank you to our esteemed panelists and moderator. It's wonderful to have this discussion tonight because I think our panelists will help put some of the key issues of our exhibition into the context of their own contemporary experiences. So as you all know, if you've seen the exhibition, City of Others is a show about Asian artists in Paris in the decades of the 1920s to 1940s, so almost 100 years ago. And yet, many of its key issues are still very resonant today. People might legitimately wonder, why did we choose to return to this period of history? And why do we think it's still important to discuss the experiences of Asian artists in Paris at this time? And a number of the reasons were to do with the things that we continue to face, questions of self and other, questions of identity and community, questions of home, place, and belonging, all things that are still kind of deeply pressing issues in the world as we see it now. So rather than introducing more of the curatorial narrative of the exhibition, which you can see for yourselves in the show, I thought I'd highlight some key points that the artists featured in our exhibition have to tell us about the experience of being an other abroad. And I hope that this will make a nice link to what the panelists have to tell us in their own discussion. So first of all, what is it like to be foreign in a city of others? We chose this period in French history, in French art history, because it was a very vibrant, very cosmopolitan moment in the history of Paris. There'd been a surge of migrants as never before in the post-World War I years. Hundreds of Asian artists came to Paris in this specific period. And as they arrived, they encountered not only the French population of the city, but other migrants from all around the world. So here, in the words of Fujita Suguharu, a Japanese artist and celebrity in Paris by the 1920s, he wrote, "Such community," and here he refers to his own community of artists in Paris, "is not composed solely of Parisians. And indeed, one can find people of over 50 nationalities, including those from countries so obscure their names are barely known. No wonder this environment fosters unconventional ideas and creativity." And in the exhibition, you'll see that Paris was a site of creative exuberance, diversity, opportunity, but it could also be one of exploitation, racism, or resistance. It could also be it could also be a proving ground, a space to try to stand out on the world stage and to make one's reputation. And there were different ways of doing this. The consummate artist of self-presentation was Fujita, and the Chinese artist Pang Shunqing wrote of him, "In Montparnasse, some people wear bizarre clothes to seek fame. Suguharu Fujita has a short fringe on his forehead, earrings, and a small moustache, which is very eye-catching. After becoming famous, he worked very hard. His paintings are primarily line drawings developed based on the Japanese line drawing tradition." Forging one's own path as an artist or as a creative individual could also be challenging and required more than self-presentation. In the case of the artist Phu Cao Dam, the curator Janine Oboye wrote of him in 1949 how he was going to try to regenerate Indo-Chinese painting by creating a new synthesis. But she cautioned it was a hazardous and very ambitious enterprise for a young painter lost in the Parisian jungle. So I think this sense too of being lost abroad in an enormous city, trying to forge one's own way for the first time, is something that's familiar to many of us. And it could be agonizing, as in the diary of the Taiwanese artist Yang Sanlan, who wrote, "I have to find a new direction. I question myself. What did I come to Paris for? How pitiful it is that I cannot find a way to open this new door." So here we have pressure, the pressure to perform in a new environment and an international context. And finally, there's the question of our home and rediscovering our home, our origins, our identity, which many artists in this exhibition also found. One of the key points as we did our research for City of Others was that we noticed many artists who came to Paris did not necessarily become more French. In fact, they tended to emphasize the Asian content in their works of art because they'd come to discover their home cultures from the perspective of distance and reevaluate them in a kind of critical and conceptual way as well. And so for Amrita Shergill, a boundary-breaking modern artist of Indian and Hungarian descent, her years in Paris were the moment when she said she rediscovered India. And in this quite extraordinary letter that she wrote to her parents, she said, "Our long stay in Europe has aided me to discover, as it were, India. And in short, I now wish to go back to appreciate India at its worth." So this is the perspective of being foreign abroad, the perspective of distance. So with these thoughts, I'm going to hand over to our wonderful group of panelists who I hope can attest to the way that some of these issues still manifest in their experiences of being creative Singaporeans, creative artists abroad today. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Phoebe, for the insightful sharing. Now it's with great pleasure that we invite our panelists, Andrew, Kenghua, Wong Keen, and moderator Usha to the stage as we kickstart the exciting discussion. They will also be taking questions from the audience, so feel free to be part of the conversation and to share your thoughts. Over to you, Usha, and a round of applause for our panelists and moderator.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Can I ask, before I get started, how many of you have seen the exhibition? Oh, okay. So when I talk about the themes of the exhibition, I think a lot of us are going to be familiar with them already. So before we get started, I'll perhaps just run through what our panel is going to look like tonight, how we're going to flow through the proceedings. We're going to speak for about 35 to 40 minutes. I've got some questions lined up for our panelists today. And then we have about 20 minutes of time for question and answer from the audience. So if you have any questions for our very, very well-known and established panelists here tonight, please save them for the last 20 minutes and you will have time to ask your questions. Okay? So without further ado, what I'm going to do is just give you a brief introduction to each of the panelists, and then I will let them share more about their own personal stories. So next to me, we have Mr. Wong Keen. He is one of the first Singaporean visual artists to be educated in the USA. He's a very prominent artist whose works explore the themes of identity, cultural synthesis, and belonging. Can we have a round of applause for Mr. Wong? Next to Wong Keen, we have Tan Kenghua. Kenghua is an award-winning actor and producer who has built a very distinguished career across film, television, and theatre, both in Asia and in other parts of the world. Welcome, Kenghua. And next to Kenghua, we have Mr. Andrew Gun. He's one of Singapore's most celebrated fashion designers. I'm wearing one of his dresses. I see some ladies in the audience in his clothes too. So he's been based in Paris for over 3 decades, and he's built an internationally renowned luxury fashion house. So welcome, Andrew, and thank you all for joining us, and thank you to the National Gallery for having us and for organizing this wonderful event. So to kick us off, could I ask each of you to share a little bit about your own personal journey as an artist or a creative? What led you to move from Singapore to the West? So maybe just a brief introduction about your work and your own personal journeys. Yes, you can go first.
Well, both my parents were teachers at Singapore High School. And with 7 children, I was not able to go any place. I know that. So I work hard besides going to school over my painting and so on. And at the age of 12, I decided to become somebody. So I decided I want to be an artist. So at that time, my mother said, if you want to be an artist, we send you to Liu Kang to study some drawing, which I did. And later on, we moved to Chinese High. In Chinese High, I met Chen Wenxi, Dr. Chen Wenxi. There, I learned a great deal by talking to him, asking him questions, flipping his collection of a modern art book. There, I learned a great deal. When I was about 14 or 15, some of my work was selected in Singapore Art Society's annual exhibition. Encouraging, very much encouraging. So about when I was 19, I decided I want to explore more. So I had a one-man show, and I sold some painting and bought a ticket and hopped on a freighter and went to US. There, a new life, a new chapter began. So that is one chapter. It's okay to answer your question?
That's a very good answer. Thank you. And how about you, Keng Hua? Tell us about your journey.
I think this is actually a good opportunity to share some definitions, because I never thought of myself as having moved to the United States. I go where good work takes me. I'm an actor, and I hope to be able to work anywhere there is good work and anywhere that good work wants me. The reason why in the last 8 years I spent so much time in North America is because after the success of Crazy Rich Asians, representation in terms of an agent and a manager was offered to me. And one could just see that as more people looking for jobs for you. And because of that, I got jobs in the United States. In the first 1.5 years, I actually spent a lot of time traveling back and forth. So whenever I got a job, Grey's Anatomy, Magnum PI, I would just go there, I would film, and then I would just stay there for as long as was needed. And then I'll also just come back. I'm a bit of a travel ninja, so no problem. But then I got this full-time job in main cast in a Warner Brothers television series, and that was being shot in Vancouver. And every time it got renewed, I would ostensibly have to be there for about 9 months as they shot 12 to 13 episodes, 1-hour episodes. And so a lot of people always think that I actually moved there. Actually, what it was I was just working there. And then after they renewed it for 3 seasons, so that was 3 years, they didn't renew it for the 4th season. And so, you know, at the end, about 1.5 years ago, I'm a independent freelance actor again. So hit me up, guys. You know. So yeah. I never really moved there. Yeah.
That's great perspective. Thank you. And Andrew, what's your journey been like?
Oh dear, I didn't move. Well, I've been living in Paris for the past 35 years, I mean, believe it or not. And then prior to that, I was in Italy, and then New York, and then London before. And I left straight after my military service when I was a very young man, and I had no choice because it was the late 80s, and there was no school or university providing the kind of studies I wanted to pursue, fashion or art. And that's the reason I left Singapore. And so one thing leads to another. You know, normally when you graduate from, after graduating from Milan, my postgraduate school, I went for a couple of interviews, obviously, you know, with my big portfolio. So I was given a job in Rome by Valentino, and then I was also offered a job by Emmanuel Ungaro in Paris. I've lived in Milan for 2 years then, and so I realized that Italy is actually quite provincial. I'm sorry, are there any Italians here? No, I mean, it's great. I mean, it's love. But but you know, in the whole Milan at that time, it's just all relative. So at that time, there's only one cinema in Milan called Angelicum, and they would show European or American movies for all the Anglo-Saxons every weekend. And so I must tell you this, I must have seen Star Wars in Italian many, many times. You have Princess Leia coming down off the spaceship and say, "Che cosa fai?" And I mean, this is something which is extremely, and I said, you know, I love Italy, I love the people, I love the pasta, I love the food, love the fashion. But you know, it's something that I need to make a decision, and then I've never lived in Paris before. So I say, you know, I've lived in London, I've lived in New York, now I've lived in Milan, so I'm going to make a move. So as beautiful and as inviting Rome is, I took the job in Paris, and with 2 suitcases, and plus rice cooker from my mom, Pale Ping, I still have it. You know, you can cook rice for 2 people, and I arrived in Paris with nothing. So that's how I started, yes.
I think that's a really nice...
I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, it moved on, yes.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really nice point to end on, because it nicely segues to my next question about a little bit more on your own respective experiences being migrants or expatriates overseas. So, you know, many of you have had a look at the exhibition, City of Others, and one thing that really struck me was, you know, the multiplicity of Asian experiences that was represented in the exhibition, right? So you have artists like Georgette Chen, who are relatively privileged, going to Paris to deepen her craft and to learn from the French teachers. But then you also had the Vietnamese migrant lacquer workers, right, who were brought over under French colonial structures. So those were 2 very different migrant experiences. Andrew, you talked about not having very much. I think Wong Keen as well, in previous interviews, you've talked about how it was hard for you when you were first in the US. You didn't have very much at all either. So I'd like to ask each of you, you know, thinking about this idea of the continuum of experiences, the different types of migrant experiences that you could have, what was that like for you? Perhaps to shorten it, would you have considered yourself a migrant or an expatriate?
Well, I think we're all human, you know, living on this earth. The boundary is the one that causes us, right, to move from one place to another freely. And I think that is something I don't like about it. But anyway, I was a student in the United States. Having struggled working part-time in any form of job to support myself. And it's quite difficult. Every so often, I have to work about 6-7 hours a day after school, and upon going home, very tired. So that is a very fundamental experience when I was in the 20s, which I have the might and the strength, you know, and I was not fear at all, because I say, a dog can survive on the street, why can't I, you know? So for that reason, I go on and go on. And of course, I have a lot of good opportunity to meet up with a lot of good artists, which is very important. You learn from them, and also a great deal of a teacher and professor. These are the friends that I have, and I think they are very open-minded, and never have given me any feeling about being an Asian or being a minority.
So it was hard, but you got through it. Keng Hua, when we talked about this a little bit earlier, you mentioned that you were coming at it from a different perspective because you were already an established performer and well-known. So can you share a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so I would say the last 8 or 9 years that I've been spending a lot of time in North America acting, to me, I went there in my late 50s. It's the best way to experience acting in Hollywood, I think, because I'm at heart a Singaporean auntie, and being a very good Singaporean auntie really helps you to weather a lot of the idiosyncrasies of entertainment culture in North America. You can very easily tell what you want to leave behind, what you want to learn from, what you, and you are, I had a whole career in Singapore. That first year in California, I went for nearly 100 auditions. And I felt so free. I felt so confident. A lot of it is also because nobody knew me. Singapore knows me so well, I just can't run away from everybody, And it's so nice to run away from everybody for a little while as an actor, so that you can just redefine yourself. And it's very good for acting. I don't know what it's like for fashion or, for visual arts, but for acting, it's just so nice to just be in a place where nobody knows you and you can just be whatever you want to be. So, I just felt it was the perfect time. I needed that fresh energy. I went there with no expectations. You want me? Want me lah. You don't want me? I'll just go home. But then, and when they did want me, they treated me right. Maybe because I'm old. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, it's like, fine, good. Everything kind of fell into place. I felt like I was following some sort of a very positive feng shui sort of flow of energy, and I just went from one thing to another. Yeah.
You talked about the idiosyncrasies of the American market, which you're in a position to accept or reject. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
I think that celebrity culture is strong and very well defined in North America. It is complex. It is an industry in and of itself. And I think it is something that many Singaporean actors don't understand or has never actually been exposed to. I don't want to diss celebrity culture because I do feel that there are many players in North America who know how to work the celebrity industry well and for good outcomes. But for me, I think it was just very important that I just remained who I was and what I wanted, which was to deepen my experience of acting. That's really what I wanted. I wanted to widen and deepen my experience of acting. And oh my goodness, I got it. I got it, and I see it as an extension of my purpose. I don't see it as an alternative to Singapore. I love everything that I've done, that I continue to do here. I just want to do more. I'm more greedy. And why not?
How about you, Andrew? What was your experience like?
Well, I'm not as lucky as Madame right here. So, to continue my story, the Madame. Well, I arrived in Paris being a nobody. I was just a little assistant in the couture house of Monsieur Garo at that time. And so I was nobody. I started from zero. I did not speak French when I arrived, and I did not know anybody. I think the beginning was extremely hard. But you see, so I never actually, when you work so hard to get to where you are, you never get to question. It's basically a luxury to ask yourself question whether you're a migrant, whether you're expert. No, I never thought about that. And the hardship, I think, is a very Asian thing that I see it as, it was there to form me, to build me for the future, to make me understand more about the business of fashion. And it was that. And you never really question yourself many things. And I think I'm lucky enough to land in Paris because I think Paris is an extremely open-minded city. And I think it embraces talented people and creative people from all over. And I think that's very essential because I would be able to create and to be able to create without thinking that, oh my God, I need to show my Asianness. I need to be Asian all the time. So I thought that was really a plus point, and it was essential that I can actually be myself and do exactly what I want and really create, without thinking about the consequences and all that. But it was hard, but, it made me into who I am, so.
Thanks, Andrew. I mean, of all of our panelists, you're actually the only one who is living and working in Paris, right?
Yes.
So when you did your walkthrough of the exhibition, how did you feel? Did you feel like it was resonant of your own experience? What were your thoughts and impressions?
Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate the team of National Gallery. It's absolutely breathtaking. There are many pieces that I would like to rip it off from the wall and bring it home. And there's so many, many beautiful things. And I was just having a conversation with Christina, right here about, social event and art always go hand in hand with social evolution. And that this exhibition, because we're actually at the point, we all feel that because I'm a creative person, and they always say, fashion is all about trends. It's about sensing. And trends basically is about sensing what's going to be the next big thing. And early 20th century figurative paintings are actually very essential. They're coming that. Because you can always tell that from also the auctions they're presenting the kind of things, So not that abstract or conceptual arts are going to be out, but we feel that is very much the next important thing coming in. And also seeing all these wonderful Asian artists based in Paris at that time and coming up with such beautiful things. It's very emotional, and it's something which, you cannot, automatically I think about myself because, we were all there working. I mean, a lot of things has not changed. And working towards something, to create something to do something that you really want to do. Like for you, you want to act, you want to paint. For me, I want to design beautiful dresses, doing many things. And so it's a very emotional thing. Yes.
That's a very lovely thought. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask you all about something that Phoebe talked about when she introduced the show, and it was that image of Fujita with his glasses and his little fringe, I feel like Asian artists might face stereotypes and preconceived notions when they're moving out into the Western world. Did you ever encounter challenges like that? And if you have, could you talk a little bit about that and how you overcame such challenges? But perhaps we'll start with Keng Hua this time. Yeah.
I would like to say that I've played stereotypes all my life, and I didn't have to go away to play stereotypes. For 11 years of my life, I played a stereotype in Phua Chu Kang Private Limited. I don't have a problem with that at all. I'll tell you the truth. Because I feel that it's an acting job, okay? And if I want to accept this acting job, my job is to make this role as good as possible. So I actually don't, I don't look at a script and I don't think to myself, oh, I don't want to play the stereotype of a Singaporean auntie, or, oh, I don't want to play the stereotype of a 50-something Chinese woman. No, I don't think about that. I just look at the script and I just ask myself one question: do I want to do this? Does it excite me? And then if I want to do it and it excites me, I will do it, and I will do it to the best of my ability. And until today, I'm so proud of my work on PCK. I'm so proud of it. And whenever I watch it on Netflix, right, recently it's been on Netflix, I just laugh out loud. And, I know I sound, at the risk of sounding arrogant, it's bloody funny. And all of us are playing stereotypes, right? So, hey, that's just me lah.
And how about you, Ong Kin? Stereotypes. Did you have to face any? Yeah?
Well, very simple. Sorry. Well, I don't think there's so much about stereotype. I think basically it's a class system. Upper class, lower class, and so on and so on. And that causes chaos in the society. And today we look at some of the minority people, very intelligent, very well-dressed, very elegant. They are never looked down by the upper class of the different race, or white, or whatever. If you are a terrible person, don't dress well, don't behave well, you surely will be looked down. Is that stereotype? I think it's a class system all over the world. So based on that, I dress pretty good, so I'm okay.
So you have a story about how when you first arrived in New York in 1961, you had just $200 in your pocket.
I think less than 200.
Less than 200?
I didn't even count, I don't know why 200.
Singapore or US?
I think
That's true, that's a good point.
I think I sold,
SGD or USD?
I think I sold more than $200 during my first exhibition at National Gallery. I think my mother kept some of them, in case I needed more, or maybe I worried that I would spend it all at one time, But anyway, $200 is okay for me for beginning. I work any kind of job to support myself. You name it. I remember one time, a friend introduced, I think an artist too, to ask me if do you know carpentry? I said, yes. I took a saw and hammer and went. Of course, what I built, what I did, I don't know how they feel. They pay me a little money and left. That's how I live in America. I do any kind of job. I work in a hotel, I work in a restaurant, I work any place. I taught, I teach, I lecture as I get older and older, I was even art director for Police Athletic League in New York City for some time, which I did quite a bit of organizing quite a bit of a exhibition for youngsters all over town. In fact, we did one in Lincoln Center. It's called Periscope. All the youngsters gather together, perform, just like here, big place. Somehow, that's how I struggle all my life there. Yeah. Then, that's not good enough for me because I never have a good financial background, stabilized financial. So I said to myself, today I have $1, tomorrow I'm going to have $2. Is this too long? No? No? Fine. So I decided I want to be a little more richer, right? So I decided to work 7 days a week, accumulate a little bit of money, and then open up a small frame shop. From this small frame shop, over the maybe 10 years or so, I become very successful as a framer. You know, all the big company came to me, celebrity, Time Magazine come to me, People Magazine, Macy, Lord and Taylor, New York Law School. Everybody come to me. I said, is that what I want to do? This is not what I come from. So in the back of my mind, I said, when do I go back to my painting? Constantly. And then at that time, I was quite okay, you know, with some money accumulated. I went back to Soho, which I originally came from. Opened up a first Asian gallery in Soho, featuring Asian artists from China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and some Malaysian. Of course, some American too. That's how I be able to do some work at the same time, you know. Okay.
Thank you. I think the hustling is very much part of the artist experience wherever you are. Did you have to hustle hard, Andrew?
Oh, yes, I did. And I wish I could have actually the stereotype experience because I think in the world that we're living in today, I think if you can turn that as a marketing tool, it'd be great. But honestly, I think when I arrived in Paris, people are very civilized, and I didn't actually feel the pressure of an Asian living in a foreign country or whatever. I mean, people are really helpful and helpful, friendly. I think France is a very, very fair country, and I think the thing is that I think they will treat and recognize talents irrespective of where they're from. So I think in a way I'm very lucky. Yes.
So do each of you feel that living outside of Singapore has allowed you to see your own culture from a different perspective? I think it must have done, right? So could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I always feel that there are many things when you're living in the country, there are many things you don't see. And once you're away, and I've been living away for such a long time, since I was 21 years old, and it's been, you don't want to know how old I am, but it's a long time. And it really enables me to see the richness and the complexity of my Singapore roots. And I think this is something very precious to me, and as a matter of fact, I named the very last collection before I retired. By the way, I retired in 2023 in December. So that was the last collection I designed. I named it Root. It's a homage to my Asian roots, and also so I kept the best for the very last. So, yeah.
So Keng Hoa, how do you view your Singaporeanness now that you've been away?
To be absolutely honest, I think because of my theatre career here in Singapore, so much of it was all about finding Singapore stories, finding English language Singapore ways of expressing ourselves and our people on the stage, I think being away doesn't make me feel any more or less Singaporean. I think that is so much a part of my DNA that being in another country doesn't necessarily affect that or change that very much. But going into more detail, being in North America, being a part of the entertainment industry there, has definitely made me want to do one thing, and that is I love the well-oiled machinery, infrastructure, process, belief system in the entertainment industry there. I know it sounds very corny, but I remember saying this to some of my closest friends when I first came back after setting up what I call a pop-up shop, in LA, right after Crazy Rich Asians. I said, you know how everybody reads that in LA it's like a feeling of where your dreams can come true? I really felt that when I was there. I was just speaking to some people here that I am a natural hustler. I'm hustling all the time. And I actually love that part of me, but, being away, I feel very appreciated for being the hustler that I am. Here in Singapore, I feel very self-conscious about it, and I think I actually turn a lot of people off, and I feel quite sad about that because actually I'm not hustling for anything bad. I'm just hustling for stuff that I think is going to be fun to do together, guys. Shall we do it? I'm just very like that. So I would like to be able to bring some of the process and machinery of the entertainment industry that I've experienced there and bring that back here. But the passion and the purpose of telling Singapore stories and portraying Singapore people, that shines ever so brightly all the time. And it's not about being away. It is just about growing older, loving my country more, feeling my mortality, loving my job. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, very well said.
Speak like you.
I come fashion design. I only have to get other people's clothes.
No, I think that's fantastic. I should have come to you for feedback when I was giving my parliamentary speeches. But how about you, Wong Kin? How do you view Singaporean culture now that you've had so many experiences overseas and now that you're back?
Depends on what you put Singapore culture at what period of time. In the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, that.
You can share all your perspectives.
Well,
I
have been away too long, maybe over 50 years. When I often come back, I don't see anything moving. And therefore, it doesn't make me miss anything, And when I look back, I think Singapore art did not move too much, except quite lately, I think, that a lot of youngsters went abroad, study, and come back and contribute quite a bit. And I came back to Singapore. I hope I bring something back to enlighten younger artists.
Can I?
So, in other words, I'm saying, huh?
After you, I'll say something else.
In other words, I say to myself, I did not miss much about Singapore, but I too much concentrated in my activity in America. So sorry about it.
Well, about Singapore not moving, I must say something because I feel it's so essential. So, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with art, and there wasn't a lot of things about art in Singapore at that time. We're talking about the 70s, and so I'm actually a very bulimic, obsessive collector of ceramics and Chinese porcelain. So in order to satisfy my craving and my desire and I became the youngest member of the Southeast Asian Ceramic Society in Singapore, and at that time headed by Earl Lu. And I can tell you, at that time, Singapore didn't have much. I mean, you go to the National Gallery, you have like 2 bowls and 1 rotting things lying here. I mean, it was pathetic. And even as a young boy, I was like 12 or 13 years old, it was nothing much for us. But today, when I come back, that's why I have to say this, because this is how I feel for myself, is that I feel so emotional to go through this beautiful exhibition curated by National Gallery, and then the beauty of a lot of beautiful exhibitions, the one called Pagodas in Asian Civilization Museum. And there's so many museums around us. So Singapore did move, and a lot more for us, and we should go much further. We're here to do that. It's about cultivating that. It's about conveying the message to tell people we could do that. That's part of our soft power. And I think we've moved on, and the proof is we're sitting here talking about this wonderful exhibition curated by the wonderful team of National Gallery. So yes, should we have a clap for that? For Singapore, the art scene?
I completely agree with you on soft power. King Hoi, you have something?
I just wanted to add one thing, and here's a concept for everybody to chew. A lot of times, I miss Singapore more when I'm actually in Singapore. A lot of times when I'm away, maybe because I'm away from my country, I am in geography that is very new, I always feel so Singaporean, and therefore I don't miss Singapore, But then a lot of times when I come home, and maybe it's my age, I always feel like, I miss Singapore. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Wong Kin, anything you want to add?
Nothing much.
Nothing much. Okay. Because I think it's a really good time for us to stop our little discussion, although I'm enjoying it very much, and I feel like I have so many more questions to ask. But I think it's a good time to open up to the floor if anyone has questions for our panelists. So National Gallery staff will come round with a microphone. There's a lady in the front row.
Thank you so much for this panel. This has been very insightful. I'm actually a bit the opposite way around. I was born and raised in the US with Vietnamese and French roots. And so I wanted to talk and touch more about identity, given the exhibit that has also been here in the National Gallery. So having expectations as well as classifications of identities can be very defining as well as limiting. Given that we live in such a globalized economy and world now, how do you foresee the future of what identity is and how that might be classified for an individual and where we're kind of being transient between different countries or living abroad, given your past experience? Thank you.
Question of identity. How do you respond
me?
to that? Well, if you'd like, yeah. Everyone, I think, right? All, yeah.
Identity. I think Singapore has slaughtered quite a bit of identity in the past. You know, I remember when I grew up, when I was a youngster, I see a lot of heritage. Never saw them again. And then we, of course, absorb a lot of Western idea, a lot of Western philosophy, and brought to Singapore, which is okay. But I felt to create an identity, you cannot diminish the old. So I'm a little bit sad about that, you know. I can give you a list of things that we have we have not seen for a long time. For instance, our theater on the street vanished. Opera singing vanished. Quite a bit of them. I can go on, you know. So to continue with this, just imagine to continue with this kind of a theater, outdoor theater, opera singing, and Singapore might become something really identify Singapore. But now I think we're a bit lost. Lost, not in the sense completely lost. Lost in the sense of a fusion. So is this good or bad? I don't know, but we'll see the outcome eventually. But I still feel those identities should not be diminished. Eating char kway teow on the street is a very interesting idea, you know. Make people feel good and relax people. Right now, we had to pay a lot of money to sit in a restaurant. Okay, that's what I say a little bit, you know.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. Keng Hoa, do you have a response?
My response to any question about identity invariably is like this. The more I try to find identity, the more elusive it is. The more I read about people trying to, define their identity, the more I feel it's not there. But all I can say is, I know and I feel it strongly, my own identity. I just don't want to really explain it. Because the minute I verbalize it, right, I always feel very disingenuous and I always feel like, oh my God, Keng Hoa, you have no identity, because I cannot speak Mandarin, and then I'm Chinese, but I know that I have a very strong identity. I just don't really want to define it and talk about it. It's kind of like a strange thing. But for me as an actor, it actually works. I think Tilda Swinton, this wonderful actress, right? She actually talked a little bit about this, that there has been too much talk about identity in the acting circles. Because for me, a lot of the joy of acting is not having an identity so that I can just morph into this and that and not judge myself and not think, oh, I'm Singaporean, I cannot play this. Or I've played a dog, I've played a horse and I love it. Do I identify as I don't know, but I loved playing a horse and a dog. I just posted it on my Instagram because I was Clover in Animal Farm. Yeah, I was a very good horse. I think for an actor, I actually want to diminish and I actually want to disappear, I want to just be whatever I want to be, yeah.
I totally agree with you, Keng Hoa. But there's a point, in fact, when I get older, in fact, Okay. I was educated in Chinese schools, and at that time, you've clearly marked the line of Chinese educated and English educated at my time. So I went to River Valley, which is then became a SAP school, and then went to Hua Chong. And my first language, I was brought up speaking Mandarin and Teochew at home, so I'm a Teochew boy. And my parents are from a very conservative Chinese-speaking family. So, in fact, there was a point, I completely agree with you that, you know, when the minute when you try to define yourself and try to find your identity, it's when you sort of like, should I hold on to that or should I? And it's so tiring doing that because, you know, I speak quite a few languages for my work because we produce in Italy and because also I did my MA in Italy. I speak Italian. And I also speak French because I've been living there for such a long time. Obviously, I speak English as well, Chinese, and a couple of dialects. And so I never questioned myself whether I dream in which language. And I think this is the sign of the times, the world we're living in. And I would hate to use the term global, but it is a true fact because, you know, when I was young, we would have a packet of nasi lemak at 3.35 cents in the morning for breakfast, and everybody's very happy about that. But today, people sort of, you know, and then you have Asian meals all day. But now, you can actually have a croissant for breakfast from Tiong Bahru Bakery, and then you can go to have Italian lunch somewhere, and you can have pho from Vietnam for dinner. So I think this is the world that we're moving in. And I think the minute you start questioning yourself, oh, is that my identity? Should I be that? Should I be that person that people want me to be? And I think it comes back to playing your Asianness. So I think we shouldn't ask ourselves too many questions. Just live and live a happy life, if we can.
I think that's excellent advice. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, so many.
Okay. Hi, Usha. And Chong here. Thanks a lot. I think this has been a very interesting discussion about creatives. My point is, you know, Singapore is a very small country, and the market here is tiny for creatives to really sort of break out, if you will, you know, and go out to the world. So to be successful in Singapore alone is not enough because, you know, there are only 6 million people. So to really have an impact, you really need to be international. And I think from my observation, the people who have gone out of Singapore, meaning living outside of Singapore to do their creative work, and this could be visual, this could be fashion, this could be even performance, you know. So very often, you look at, for example, our most famous male singer, right, J.J. Lin. He's based in Taiwan, or was in Taiwan for many years. And he became very famous. You know, if he had stayed in Singapore, I don't think he would have been so famous and so popular. And the same is also true of our visual artists. I think Wong Keen mentioned the fact that now there is a lot of potential in our younger generation of artists. And there is a diaspora of these very promising artists who are no longer happy to be doing their creative work in Singapore. They are in Berlin, they are in Beijing, you know. Some even has gone maybe to Bangkok. So one good example is Ming Wong. He's based in Berlin, and today he is the artist in residence in the British Gallery, or is it British Gallery or British Museum in the UK, So I'm not, so I think my point really is that for creatives, or Singapore creatives to really be successful, right, in the commercial sense, I think they have to make the move out of Singapore at some point in their career, And I think all three of you are quite representative of that that trend or that success, and I hope more of our younger creatives will have the courage, like you guys on stage, to really go out and do their thing, so to speak.
There were a couple of questions in the front. Thank you, Mr. Chong. That was very good of you to share.
Hi, I'm a businesswoman, and I own 3 companies, all of them in the space of health. I recently started a movie production company. It's for entertainment for health social impact, and I would like to collaborate with you, King Wah. If you can kindly...
Hit me up.
Yes, exactly.
Let's hustle.
Right. Love it. It's a collaboration with Hollywood as well, so I think you would be able to play the character of Selena very well.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Selena as in Men in Black, that character from outer space.
Somewhat like that. It's a medical thriller. Okay. Oh, wow. The question. All of us, in whatever we do have occupational hazard. So I've always been wondering, what is a fashion designer's occupational hazard? What would have been an actor's occupational hazard and an artist's occupational hazard? It's a fun question to lift the mood.
Occupation hazard.
Do you want to go first, Wong Kim? Would you like to go first?
Hazard? Not have money to buy canvas. Hazard. That's all.
There are so many occupational hazards with actors, and I'll tell you why. Because it is necessarily a profession that requires a certain amount of vanity, ego, and narcissism. Necessarily, yeah? Okay? Doesn't mean it has to go in a bad way, okay? But you need a little bit of it to perform. Anything to do with narcissism, ego, comes with a lot of occupational hazards. Anxiety, right? Just basically mental health, obsession. It can really throw your real life into a bit of a dark space. But I would say that narcissism, vanity, and obsession are also the weapons that I use to pull myself out of those dark spaces. So the same thing that puts me there, right, is also the same thing that I use to pull me out. Because I gotta get out of here so that I can go back to work, so that I can be good, so that I can work. Do you know what I mean? And then because I want to be good, oh my God, am I going to be good enough? I cannot sleep. I better go and sleep now. My call time is 4 a.m. in the morning. This can go on and on and on and on. And anyway, it's my life. It's just my life. And getting older really helps. with any sort of occupational hazard. Because the fact of the matter is this, I mean, you just get sick of yourself. You know, I literally, like at 2 a.m. when I cannot sleep and I have a 4 a.m., call time, and it's like that in Canada because it takes like 1 hour. Canada is very big, so to get to the studio, I have to drive like 1 hour in the cold, like minus 30. But I'll just get sick of myself. And then I just rely on these few things that will get everybody out of any sort of occupational hazard, which is practicality. Just be practical. Common sense. Just use your common sense, guys. You just like need to sleep. If you're a tennis player and you get tennis elbow all the time, I mean, you have to rely back on pure common sense, practicality. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you were to ask me to list all the occupational hazards for an actor, we don't have enough time. I'm looking at the timer now. We only got 1 minute and 47, 46, 45 seconds left.
Some little things left for me, a little time. So I just to sum it up, but no worries. I used to design 4 collections per year because you have spring, summer runway, autumn, winter runway. Then you have a collection which is called pre-fall, and then a cruise collection. When you break the 12 months in a year into 4 collections, meaning that you have about 3 months per collection. So me and my whole team will have to work about a month in researching on textiles and techniques into what we want to do. And then we'll have about a month to design the collections. And then the leftover, that 1 month, we are actually using that to sell the collection, the marketing team, and then I will have to travel to promote the collection. So it's almost like, a singer cutting a record, and then we have to, for every single record, you have to travel and promote it. So that went on for about 30 years of my life. And thank God I'm fairly resourceful, and I've got a huge head, and it stores a lot of things, and I have photographic memories. But it's also a lot of effort. So I think if there's one word and one thing that I normally use, is about self-confidence. Each morning I have to wake up and look in the mirror and say, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And it's hard. And people think that fashion is very glamorous, but it's like 5% of glamour, but 95% of really, really tough moments, And no one could see that. And so this is my real advice to people trying to come into our trade, is that be prepared to work really, really hard. So yeah.
Agreed.
And now I'm retired. I'm so happy.
Okay, so the timer, if you don't know, was actually really counting down as we were speaking, and now it says 0. But National Gallery has given me a little bit of leeway, and I think we had one question. One more? One question from the gentleman in front? Yeah, maybe last question?
Hi, thank you so much. I'm someone who's really interested in the creative process, not just the technical aspects of how you come up with it, with your respective fashion, your artworks, and your acting, but in particular, why? What draws you to a specific piece that you create? So bringing it back in theme with being another, to everyone on the panel, did you find that living abroad, being away from home, impacted your creative work?
I think that's a very good question. My answer is yes. I think the first time I arrived in London, and the first time I saw Victoria and Albert Museum or British or whatever museum in London, I mean, it was a wow. Especially in the 80s, as I've mentioned before, we didn't have a lot of that in Singapore. So to look at something so spectacularly beautiful and so something that is so foreign to me. You know, I've not seen that sort of things. It's completely, it's so inspiring. So really, I think if you are not based abroad, do travel a lot abroad. Like go to places, observe and learn. And I think a lot of people do that these days. And I think all of you are very lucky today because you have social media, you have TikTok, Instagram. You can visit literally, virtually the whole museum in Norway, on a computer. And, we didn't have that. And we're relying on ourselves. And we didn't even have a camera. We have to go there and we sketch. And that's what we did. When I was going to school at St. Martin's, the whole class would sit in front of a certain paintings or whatever, and we draw and we sketch, and that's how we remember things. We take inspirations. And so yeah, King Hua, what do you think? Say yes.
Oh, yes. I agree with, and I share the same sentiment with Andrew with regards to being surrounded by really good talent. And I'm not just talking about the actors. I mean, coming back to what I said about infrastructure, machinery, when I'm an actor, when I'm hired as an actor abroad, I only have one job. I just need to be an actor. Whereas in Singapore, you tend to also need to be the wardrobe. You have to do your own wardrobe, then you have to do your own conti, then you have to, you know what I mean? I'm not complaining because actually that experience made me very well appreciated abroad because I was so self-sufficient, But being surrounded by a lot of talent is always so wonderful. I always feel like I'm floating on air because like every scene, no matter what guest star or whatever, wow, you can just go for it, and every scene, everybody is like there. Okay? However, I'm more creative in Singapore. Yeah, I feel more creative in Singapore as an actor, and I'll tell you why. Because there are more opportunities open to me in Singapore, and I'm very ADHD, as you probably have already guessed. My mind is just like, combusting all the time. And not just in terms of acting. I mean, I produce as well. And I'm constantly like, oh my God, we can do that. Oh, shall we do this? And, I love that part of me, actually. I love that. And therefore, I am more creative in Singapore because I have more opportunities, I know more people, there are more people, who can help me get projects off the ground. Yeah. That's my answer.
Thank you.
Creativity comes from experience, from living a different form of life. Understand what's going on around us, socially and politically. By doing that, you don't have to travel too much, but it helped a great deal. Meeting different people, different type of people. I've said earlier, different class of people, Then you begin to realize life is complex. And as a result, you digest all these things, you come back and you maybe can produce something. And work hard, you might create something.
Thank you, Ong Kin. I think that's a wonderful way to close the panel. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. Thank you to the audience as well for asking such great questions and for joining us. I think we have a lot to think about. We've got a job opportunity that's come out of this discussion. And really, thank you to the National Gallery for hosting us. I hope everybody who hasn't seen the show will go and look at it now because the galleries are going to be open. And with that, I guess I'll declare this panel to be closed. Thank you.